You said a lot of points there, and you obviously stated that you're pro family values, pro Christian values. But
Sure.
again, you're forgetting that if you want your nation to develop as a hallmark of a developed nation, again, around the world, we can bring up many examples. You're going to have women in the workforce, which inevitably means women are going to have more independence and they're going to have less children. That's just something you're going to have to deal with. And what you guys try to do is quite sneaky. You try and, remove abortion, apart from very fringe cases, to try and increase.
Say smushmortion, please.
Yeah, my bad on that.
It's because stupid TikTok. I know you didn't mean anything by it. I'm not holding it against you. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, so you try and stop, or you try and make people have children. I'll just say it like that. And so that's what you're trying to do to sort of go around the issue. When in reality, there's nothing wrong with immigration. Again, the USA, for example, even more so than the UK, is a nation founded on immigrants. Many waves of immigrants. Italian, Irish, Chinese, many waves of immigrants come in to the US. And so that, and again, it's worked well. This is what people said for years and years. They said, oh, it doesn't work. These people are terrible. They're doing terrible things. But again, they assimilate and they contribute to the country. So again, this is why I say it's fear mongering, and it's not actually conducive to helping your country as well as the UK either. This rhetoric that is dangerous, again, is I don't understand.
Again, the dangerous rhetoric, the controlling of language, the implying that merely talking about the issue makes you racist or is somehow dangerous is exactly the problem that led us down to this disastrous path in the first place. We are literally talking about that sort of being the idea that allowed the mass harming of children in places like the United Kingdom to continue almost unfettered for 20 to 30 years, which is despicable and disgusting. The idea that, like, well, we need women to be in the workforce to have a successful society. No one's suggesting, at least not my worldview, I think Andrew would say the same, that women shouldn't be allowed to work. What we're saying is the materialistic...
By the way, they were never told that they couldn't.
That's right. Even in the 50s...
Women in the United States and in the UK have always been able to work.
As we've seen the push...
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll give you right now, I'll send you $100 if you can show me an official English policy ever that said that women were not allowed to work.
Well, their opportunities were more limited.
Yeah. So then when you say women were not allowed to work, you're lying.
No, I can see they're allowed to work, but they don't have the full opportunity to work where they want to in certain areas. That's
which areas were they demanding to work in where they couldn't?
So I guess male-dominated areas like construction.
Women don't work in construction in the UK now.
Being a soldier.
Hardly none of them work in construction in the UK now, and there's almost no female infantry in the UK now.
But my point is that
and there's almost it's I mean, this is the problem, right? Is like, this is feminist revisionist history. Women always could work in the UK. They always could. And you know what? They did this. The exact top jobs in the UK right now that women do are the same exact top jobs they did 200 years ago. They do teaching. They do medical care. They do things like that. They have the same jobs that they did 200 years ago, dude.
Yes, but we still have, it takes time, of course, to socially move women into STEM areas.
What do you need? You had 100 years. 100 years and they're not doing it.
I mean, we've definitely seen an uptick of women going into STEM fields, as I said.
You've seen an uptick in them going into universities, and universities have now been completely and totally polluted with the lowest common denominator. Going to university used to be something which was designed for the best and brightest, right? And what happened is they now have it accessible for everybody, which means it's worthless. Degrees are now if everybody can do it, it's completely and totally useless, dude. It's now the equivalent of a high school degree.
I believe only 38% of people in the UK actually currently have a degree. So, 38% around that figure. So it's actually not the majority, and it does actually indicate that you can, turn up every day, do a task, and that's quite useful for a job.
So does a high school diploma.
And listen, let's be clear, even in the United Kingdom, I happen to know a little about this, right? A lot of this has to do with sort of DEI goals and sort of this cultural Marxist, when we need to prioritize people of color and women, et cetera, et cetera. And this does two things. One, it means that you're not getting the most proficient people into these fields. Secondly, it's actually racist in the opposite way. And so according to studies that I was reading about 3 years ago, the group that was doing the poorest educationally in the United Kingdom was people that were economically low on the scale that were white. And there's almost no institutional help for them or any cultural shift to say that these people need to be helped.
You got to say
Instead,
YT on TikTok, Rob. Sorry.
I'm so sorry, YT. These stupid rules. Nonetheless, what you can see is, right, that there is all of this cultural momentum to say, oh, we need to help this group, this group, this group in the name of diversity. What ends up happening is you end up into the same problem that you claimed that you wanted to solve. You're picking and choosing winners. You're not having a meritocratic society. And furthermore, you talk about women entering the workforce as this great positive, and yet countries around the world, including the United States, were huge world economic superpowers when women were about 30% of the workforce, such as the 1950s. As we've had a mass push to encourage women to now be about 60% of women are in the workforce, what has happened? Real wages have declined. The top end of the spectrum, the companies that are hiring the massive corporations, they're raking in profits because you have doubled basically the supply of workers.
Well, let him respond, Rob. Let him respond.
Yeah, I was about to say, you said a lot of stuff. Number one, I just got a question for Rob. Can you define communism?
Can I define communism?
Hang on. First, what does that have to do with what it is?
Because I see you guys use a lot of these terms like Marxism, communism, and I don't believe you truly actually know what that means.
Marxism is the movement towards a stateless, cashless, governmentless society.
Thank you. And that's not what's happening.
So wait, so I did understand. So hang on. So I did understand what communism was.
I didn't know if Rob understood. I was asking him.
Rob knows exactly what Marxism and communism is. And by the way, what is stage 1 to communism? Socialism. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And the socialism is the movement towards industry being controlled by the state. Communism is a stateless society. Do we agree on that?
Yeah.
So then I did know exactly what it was, and Rob knows exactly what it is too.
Yes.
All right.
And when I use the term cultural Marxism, if that's what you, cultural Marxism is merely that if Marxism sought to look at things based on economics of the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, we could look at all groups and categories as oppressor versus oppressed.
Okay, great. I'm glad you know. So if you do know that, you'd understand that that's not what most leftists, I would say, are advocating for. Especially, is not communism. It's more perhaps a hybrid of capitalism and socialism. For example, in the UK, we have the NHS, which is state-funded healthcare, which it would be great if you had that in the USA. But I don't know, Republicans just won't let that happen. But I do want to also respond to your point about DEI, which you said that. It's kind of, you said it's sort of reverse. I've got to be careful with my words, but reverse racism against YT people, which is just not true. It's just giving an opportunity, for example, for people of color, women, people with different sexualities as well. It's just giving them an opportunity to be in fields which they typically be, discriminated against. It doesn't mean they're not qualified. This is something Charlie Kirk said as well. It's utterly ridiculous that, I wouldn't want a black pilot. I hope he's qualified. It's utterly insane. Of course they're qualified. It's just making sure that it's diverse, which is useful. It's good to have people from different backgrounds.
Let me ask you a question before Rob gets into this. I just want to ask you one thing. Are you a big believer in democracy?
Yes. I would say so.
Well, then how come you don't believe in an anti-immigration policy, considering that democratically your country has voted against mass migration for about 40 years?
You might be referring to Brexit, I'd imagine.
Not just Brexit. They voted against They've literally voted in any party which says that they're going to limit mass migration. That's what they tend to vote for, overwhelmingly.
Yeah, unfortunately, people like Nigel Farage and people like you spread misinformation.
Yeah, but that's democracy, and the government actually won't uphold the will of the people there, even though they democratically vote these people in to limit this. You just ignore them. Why don't you go to the government and demand that the will of the people be enforced and no more mass migration if you're such a big believer in democracy?
I mean, we had a general election about a year and a half ago to sort of change things. But again, immigration isn't the issue. I'd argue, and I think you'd probably agree with me, that it's perhaps the top 1%, the owning class who is just, again, with tax loopholes, taking so much money from services. And that's why wages are stagnating, because they, quite frankly, if we even look at AI as well, jobs of the people who are working and the people you care so much about, those working class people, are being taken away. They're being, replaced. And it's nothing to do with immigrants. That's not the issue. Again, if, the owning class was willing to pay more in taxes and contribute to improving the state, then perhaps, it'll be better. So I don't like this focus on immigrants, and this it's very divisive.
I just noticed that you didn't actually answer my question, but that's fine. I'm going to let you go back with Rob. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if I may, and I think it's a salient point, like most polling suggests like around 65 to 67% think that mass migration is far too high in the United Kingdom. And it's one of the big reasons Labour would get crushed if there was an election right now. And even the Tories, people are moving away. They want reform because they're tired of this. On the DEI thing specifically, I'll be brief on this. It is not true that it's just about giving opportunities. Name me the opportunity in the United States or the United Kingdom that, for example, a black woman can't apply to be an airplane pilot. In the past 30 years, what were the laws, the restrictions, whatever, that prohibited a black woman from doing that?
Again, this is another fallacy I see. You guys try and focus on, oh, well, it's not written in paper that it discriminates against this color of people, that they can't go in. But you need to remember that, social movements kind of take time to catch up with laws that are written down. So just because a law is written down that says, oh, this person isn't discriminated against, for example, the Civil Rights Act, doesn't mean it happens immediately. So there's still bias in individuals. Just because the system might not be discriminatory doesn't mean the individuals who make up that system don't hold those views, which is exactly why we need to implement things like DEI to make sure that everyone gets a fair opportunity. That's fundamentally it.
Okay, so what's that look like? Let's say that I own an airline, right? And it so happens that 90% of my pilots are YT men, right? And what would you then have the government do to change that?
If there are two people who are perhaps equally qualified, for example, if one's of a certain color, another one's white, one's black, or one's a woman and another one's a man, I'd advocate for the minority group, which would in many cases be a woman or a black person or someone of a certain sexuality. I'd advocate to have them come in other than the person who is for example, the white man, because we need diversity. Diversity is good, and we need to give opportunities to these people. It doesn't mean they're not qualified. It just means that we're giving an opportunity to make it more diverse. I don't know why diversity is such an issue to you. Like, why does that?
It's not an issue to me. It's an issue to you and people that share your worldview. They repeat this mantra that diversity is our strength, which is abject nonsense. If I'm someone who's flying, I want the pilot to be the most qualified person. Now, you say equally qualified, but there's almost never two people that are exactly equally qualified. And the devil's going to be in the details here. What you just suggested is that the government should force private employers to hire people based on race. Equal opportunity. It's not about equality of opportunity. It's about equality of outcome, which is equity.